Hello and welcome to the Allan Kardec USA channel. My name is Ciso. Today we are going to talk about the process of reincarnation and why we must reincarnate. Once again, reincarnation is when your soul or your spirit leaves your body after you die. Your soul, as taught by Spiritism and many religions for that matter, is not a material organ or material part of your body. It is immaterial or invisible to the human eye, to put it simply. It is an invisible body part that contains your consciousness, your thoughts, your memories, your emotions, your personality, your happiness or your anger, your knowledge. And your soul does not die when the body dies. So consciousness, thoughts, memories, emotions, personality all stay intact with the soul and move on after the body dies. The soul will separate itself from you when the body dies, and at that point it is called a spirit. And the spirit will enter the spirit's world, surrounded by other separated souls of the people that have passed on. At some point, the spirit will be assigned a new human life to live, and it will be called a soul again, a soul that will be attached to a fetus even before that baby is born. That is reincarnation. When telling a story, it would seem natural to begin at birth and end it with death, but we're going to do the opposite here. Let's begin with the point of death, and we'll end at the point of birth. After death, you will be graded, such as when you complete a school grade semester and get graded for all your classes. That is the judgment day spoken about in the Bible. After death, you will be judged. Now, who exactly is doing the judging is not always clear. The Spiritist doctrine teaches that it may be a group of highly evolved spirits. Some believe Jesus himself does the judging. Others say that the supreme force of the universe, God, does it. Or maybe you have to judge yourself. You attain a knowledge of everything you did wrong and decide what you need to do about it to fix it. In Kardec's book, Heaven and Hell, here is writings about a spirit who had said this: I see how contrary my life was to what it should have been. I see the wrongs I committed. I see the wrongs I committed. I was a useless being while in the world. I didn't make any good of my faculties. My wealth only served to satisfy my passions, my taste for luxury, and my vanity. I only thought about the pleasures of the body and not those of the soul. Will God's mercy ever descend upon me, a poor spirit who is still suffering for his earthly wrongs? So maybe, like I said, from this, we judge ourselves. But who exactly in the spirit world has the role of judging you should not be so crucial to know right now. Just know that there is a judgment day, a day of grading your progress, so to speak. The judgment determines where you go next based on your actions or inactions, things you should have done but didn't do during your life as a human. If you did very poorly during your lifetime on earth or another material world, you will remain idle. That is, you will not advance. You remain at the same level. It's similar to doing very poorly in school when you're growing up and getting what many of us refer to as getting left back, meaning you must repeat the grade again. Notice now how a student is never forced into a lower grade than the one he or she just completed. In other words, a child who failed the 5th grade, for example, must repeat the 5th grade. That child is never sent back to the 4th grade. This is something important to keep in mind with what Spiritism teaches us. The higher spirits that communicated messages to Allan Kardec and which Kardec wrote about basically tells us how something very similar occurs with the purification process of the spirit, your soul. After death, a spirit's moral level may advance or remain idle, but it never degrades to a lower level. When your spirit, after you die, learns it must repeat all the same or similar tests, let's call it, and quite possibly endure a much harsher trial, depending on the bad karma you caused yourself while in the previous life, your spirit is overcome with a dreadful feeling of guilt and shame and extreme unhappiness. Quite possibly what a child might feel when he or she is left back and must repeat the same grade over again, and how he or she won't be joining her friends in the next grade. Another thing to keep in mind is your spirit is your true life, let's call it. Your spirit is eternal. It never dies. The human body is always temporary. I know it's a little difficult to grasp, but even if you live to be 100 years old, for the spirit of that body, those 100 years was like the blinking of your eyes. Some higher spirits have said that it almost feels like when you go to sleep at night, you have your dreams and then you wake up in the morning. Similarly, the spirit is reincarnated into a baby and wakes up in the morning, meaning the person has died, which is 100 years later if you live that long. Continuing on this matter, spirits have said that detachment of the soul from the body and re-entering the spirit world had felt like the human life on earth was a sort of nightmare that they woke up from. The spirit is very happy to be back home, their true home, so to speak, after the body has died. This reminds me of something I read in a book called Life After Life by Raymond Moody. Moody wrote books about NDEs, near-death experiences, people who were clinically dead and resurrected back to life by doctors or other emergency workers. I don't remember how many people Moody had interviewed for his books, hundreds, maybe thousands, who experienced a near-death experience. But what was fascinating was how just about every one of them had certain things in common. And one was this: after the person had died, he or she did not want to come back. They died, found themselves in a much better place, and really did not want to come back. I mean, we're talking about people who may have had a wife or a husband and children and a fairly good life. Yet the other side was so much better that it hadn't mattered. That is amazing. As it turns out, in God's plan, they were required to return. And many were not happy about it, but they understood that there was a reason. Now, don't get this all wrong. One might ask, well, if the other side is so much more wonderful, if it's truly a paradise, if it's actually a real heaven, then why don't we just all commit suicide right now to go there? The answer to that is simple. You won't go there. Please see my video about what happens to people who commit suicide. There is, in fact, a sort of hell, as written about in the Bible, and that's where you'll end up. Spiritism teaches that both heaven and hell are temporary, but hell will seem eternal to the one who commits this dreadful act that God strictly prohibits. Anyway, Life After Life by Raymond Moody was another great book that I've read over the years, and I highly recommend it. Back to the purification of the soul process, purification of the spirit. I once watched a video of a man by the name of Dr. Brian Weiss speaking about the purification process of the spirit. Dr. Weiss, if you haven't heard of him, wrote a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, another excellent book that I enjoyed. Dr. Weiss is a psychiatrist that specializes in something called past life regression. In God's plan for us and reincarnation, we are not allowed as adults to have memories of our past lives. There is a good reason for that, and I'll get into that a bit later. But what Dr. Brian Weiss does is hypnotize patients that are suffering from various traumas in their life, and he has discovered, as well as many other psychiatrists that practice past life regression, that certain traumas can be treated this way, because often the trauma was the result of something that happened in a past life. For instance, someone who is suffering from extreme anxiety and terrified of being near large bodies of water, such as an ocean or a lake, or maybe even a bathtub filled with water, may have drowned violently in a past life, and that's how the person died. But Dr. Weiss, in that dialogue he was giving to an audience that I watched on a video, spoke about the purification of the spirit. He said to picture a large diamond. The diamond has, say, 1,000 facets. You know, facets is each little flat surface of the diamond. Let's say when the diamond is first created, as when the spirit is first created by God, every facet of the diamond is covered with dirt and tar. It is the job of the soul in a reincarnated human being to clean that diamond. With each new life and death, a single or possibly several of the facets on the diamond are cleaned, and those parts of the diamond will shine. It may take many lifetimes, but eventually that entire diamond will be completely clean and the entire diamond will shine. And it will be considered perfect. That's the key word here. That's the goal. Perfect. Eventually the spirit will become perfect and no longer need to reincarnate. And how do we become perfect? By erasing all our wrongs or sins, as the church likes to call it. Something that cannot be done in one single lifetime. That is impossible. As I have said, in our new incarnation, we don't have specific memory of our previous lifetimes or of the time we spent in the spirit world after death, but our mind and soul retain a sort of subconscious memory. We remember instinctively the guilt and shame of what we had done, and those subconscious memories will result, or should result, in our desire to do better. There's a thought that I like to express that may be similar to the rich man and Lazarus parable that Jesus spoke about to his disciples, which appears in Luke chapter 16, verses 19 through 31. I put a little twist on it so that it makes more sense with reincarnation and our memories of past lives. Let's say you were born and turned out to be a very rich man or woman, but you were very greedy and you treated poor people very badly. You saw people hungry and never helped them. You never gave to any charities. You grow old and die. Guess what? Karma now has you reincarnating as an extremely poor man or woman. You beg for help during your lifetime. You suffer from hunger and you watch your children suffer too. You grow old and die. Your spirit is reincarnating once again and you are well off once again, like the first incarnation I spoke about. But something in you has changed. You don't know why, but you feel a desire to help poor, impoverished people. You don't have precise, detailed memory of your previous life of poverty, but something in your heart, something in your soul, has pity for people in need, and you want to help. You feel that need to help deep inside you. That is the purification process. You end up cleaning some of those facets on the diamond. You can use the same example for many other wrongs or matters. A criminal that robs will later have a life who is the victim of robberies. Someone who is evil and commits violent acts will be the victims themselves in a future life. This is all part of the purification process. By the way, spirits tell us that reincarnating into the life of a wealthy person or a human of great power is the most difficult to overcome, and that spirits that are smart ask for a life of poverty and misery instead, because they help to advance that spirit much faster. You have a better chance of cleaning to a shine more facets of that diamond when you are poor or a victim of crimes. There are many reasons why our Creator does not allow us to retain specific detailed memory of our past lives. One is the following. As humans, we may be traumatized by acts that we had committed or victims of if those memories aren't erased, so that we don't have to feel great shame or guilt in our new life. Another is how God wants us to make things right with people we had disputes with. For instance, if you had experienced a bad relationship with someone in a previous life and you have memory of that, you may want to avoid getting involved with that person again. Without the memory, you will both have a better chance at working out your differences, which is what God wants. Sometimes, however, we do have glimpses of our past lives as adults. I say adults because having memories of past lives is very common in very young children, and it vanishes as they get older. But even as adults, we might see some hints. Why do we see certain people in dreams that we know very well in the dream, and we seem to have a strong and possibly even a loving relationship with that person, but when we wake up, we realize that we don't know who that person was, that we have never met that person during our lifetime? This happens to all of us, I'm sure. Or why is it that one day you might meet someone for the first time, and even though you know nothing about the person at all, you seem to dislike him or her? The person may be very sweet and nice, yet you don't like him or her at all, and may even tend to despise the person. Think about that. It's happened to most of us, I think. Or possibly the opposite. You meet a person for the first time, and without knowing a single thing about that person, you are suddenly very fond of the person. Something in you tells you that this is someone that you really like, someone very special. Spiritism teaches that most of us are continually reincarnating within the same group of people, friends, co-workers, family members, for a long period of time before we eventually start reincarnating amongst another group. You know what deja vu is? A feeling of having already once experienced something that is happening to you right now. And that feeling can be very strong sometimes. Everyone has experienced deja vu in their lifetime. I strongly believe that it's because something very, very similar happened to you in a previous life. These are all hints of our past lives. A lot of that would probably better to speak about in the proof of reincarnation video that I have planned, which should be coming up next. In ending this topic about why we reincarnate and the process of reincarnation, simply put, we reincarnate because of bad karma. What we do to others creates karma. What you do comes back to you. Earth, the world we live on, is a school. Think of Earth as a school. The spirit comes here to learn. You learn about charity, you learn about love, you learn to treat others as you want to be treated. We are learning spiritual lessons as we die and are born again. Well, that is the case for almost everyone. Once in a while, a perfect spirit is reincarnated here. Not for learning, because that spirit has no more to learn here and doesn't need to reincarnate anymore. The perfect spirit is here on a mission to help humanity along. Jesus is considered to have been one of those perfect spirits. And there have been others, but the overwhelming majority of us, almost all of us, are here to learn. We are here to get those facets of the diamond clean. Thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe so that you are alerted when the next video comes out. If you would like to contact me personally, my email address is kardecusa@gmail.com. Have a blessed day.